Sparking Change for Harmonious Living is a TV show that inspires action. It motivates you to start a journey towards a more balanced, fulfilling life. This show explores well-being through spirituality, mental clarity, and physical health. It covers topics like mindfulness, nutrition, fitness, and spirituality, giving you practical advice to enhance your life. Tune in for a transformative adventure that ignites the change you seek.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I am your host, Giovanna Tartarone.
And I'm your co-host, Ahmed Bahman.
So welcome. So today's show, we're going to be talking about what we've been talking about, the universal laws. And today, we're going to be talking about the law of giving, which is my favorite one. You know, it's like it reminds me of Christmas, right? We want to just keep giving, because what we get back is exactly what we give out, right? The feelings of giving are just fulfilling. So I want to get into how important it is to understand this law, because it is not only about giving, but we do get something in return, which is receiving, and how important it is for us to recognize this particular universal law to live in harmony.
Well, if we go back to Napoleon Hill, he said that there is no such thing for nothing.
That's right.
Right? So there is always something you have to give as an exchange in order to receive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about you giving in order to basically seek the return right away. It doesn't matter. It's not about what you give. It's about how you give. What energy are you backing behind it? What kind of intention do you have? You see, the universe operates through dynamic exchange. Giving and receiving are nothing but different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe.
I love what you said before about the intention behind it. Why are you giving it? Are you giving it to receive something, or are you giving it from your heart? Because it does make a difference.
As they say, if you wish to have more abundance into your life, you need to be more abundant with others, right? And in our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. You see, or haven't you heard of the term that give the things that you love for yourself to others? Many times I know people, including myself, when I gave away something of value that I wanted for me, God provided me something greater in return. But the intention that I had to give, I gave it in a form that I no longer have an attachment with the thing. I surrendered to the universe, to God, because
That's so important, right? Surrendering, understanding that there's something greater that is going to help us get what we want out of life. Let's jump into the aspect of giving with good intentions, because a lot of people expect something in return, and it becomes disappointing when you say, oh, I've done all of this for you, I've given you all of this, but what have you done for me? You know, that is the normal language that people use, that creates disharmony, not only in our mind, in our body, but it begins to fester in emotionally. So let's talk about that, Ahmed.
well, here's the thing. If you're not giving with a pure heart out of love and joy of giving, or in the spirit of giving, you're setting yourself up for stagnation.
Explain
Because
that.
basically, I want to give something to someone, but I'm afraid that this person is not going to return anything to me, or this person is of no value. So what I'm doing is that I'm calling out to God and the universe to be treated the same way for me not to receive. It's see, again, the intent and the energy that you put out behind the act is what matters a lot. Or I would like to say is the principal thought and emotion behind the thing that you're doing.
So, and that's, you know, very good information to really sit on it and really think about it, right? And understand that. But let's take it to the other side and say, when you are giving negativity with your words, when you're putting that out to the universe and you're going, you know what, I hope that person, love, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to use that language, but when you're
Well,
wishing bad on someone, you're actually giving something,
yes,
right? Because the words
you,
have meaning. So let's talk about that, because I believe there's not a lot of knowledge about understanding how what we speak is very powerful. And the law of giving is not just necessarily being some, like you're giving an object or you're giving something.
or even thinking about someone in a
There
negative
you go.
way can be detrimental to yourself because
Right.
see, eventually we're all connected, right? There is like spiritually, there is nothing is divided in this universe. So the quickest and easiest way to identify of to halt yourself from doing such an act or a thought or an emotion is you need to see everybody as a mirror of yourself.
Mm,
Like as you're treating others, ask yourself, how would I like to be treated? Because your conscience is always going to be tagging along with everything you're doing, you know? It is if you do something bad, what happens to most people, they go back home and they start regretting it. Now, why did you put yourself in that position in the first place? Because you were ignorant of the matter at the time. But if you were conscious enough and you would have done the good deed with a good heart and a good smile and thinking
right.
of happy and noble thoughts towards the person, believe me, you go back home, you'll be the happiest bird ever. You're gonna sleep so well like a baby.
So, if I understand correctly, there is a correlation between what you wish on someone and what actually happens to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, we talked about, our last show was the law of cause and effect, and I
Yeah.
believe the law of giving to me sounds like they're intertwined.
All of them. Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, you see, the cause is always something of a spiritual and mental in nature,
Hmm.
right? It's the energy. It's part of that intent that you hold, right? And then you put it out behind the act that you do. That's the cause. Now, the effect of the cause would show up in your behavior, in your conditions, circumstances, environment, and it will reflect back to you exactly whatever you've been working on the cause,
Hmm.
right? If you want to have a different experience of the effect, you got to make sure that the cause is in alignment with the act.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And here's the
Um,
thing, as our late mentor Bob Proctor, he said that everything moves, nothing rests. And what we're operating on is not just physical landscapes, buildings, and people, but it's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness. That's why when you do something, there is someone or something of a different nature, which we like to call God, who's all seeing, who's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, whose intelligence goes beyond what we can comprehend. And the only thing is, we're not aware enough that this is taking place.
well, just like we know we need oxygen and we don't see it, right? But we know it's there.
We know it's there.
And that's pretty much what I understand with energy, because energy is never created or destroyed, it just is. And
It's
we
just
understand that this energy um, is, like you said, it's always moving.
absolutely. And the thing is that the law of giving can also be looked at as the law of giving and receiving because it's reciprocal in nature. It's that two opposite sides of the same thing. If you look at a coin, or if you look at a sphere or a square, if you're on one side of the square, or a book, these are opposite sides. Whatever is behind, whatever is in front, whatever is above, whatever is below, those are all opposite sides, right? Whatever you're looking at, the center of it is the core.
What law
Just
of
like you,
polarity?
law of polarity. Yes.
Hmm.
So, and they correspond with each other. They
That's so beautiful.
reciprocate. But the thing is that people ask, okay, what is the best way, that I can practice the law of giving? Is by practicing circulation. Put it to the test. Put out there with good intent and be patient, but keep doing that until you form the habit of doing that. You see, Jim Rohn stated something very interesting once, and it captured my attention. Now, many people want to have an accumulation of money in their saving account, right? But they're not giving their money to the savings account. They're not putting it there. And he said it's not about how much money you deposit in your bank account in the savings, but it's the philosophy behind it is that you have to get used to doing that until it becomes something of your own nature of doing
Right.
it all the time, right? And if you look at it from the other hand, why do banks give you interest? Believe me, people think when they deposit their money in the bank that the money just always remains there. No, the bank is also, they have an upper hand as soon as you deposit money there. Like if you deposit $100, they can circulate $900 into the market as loans or as different kinds of finance options.
Hmm.
And once they get their profits back, that's where your interest comes from. So even the banks don't keep the money static. So they're also giving in order to have a greater return.
So this is going to be an eye opener for people who decide to put their money under their mattress and just keep it there. Right? It
It,
has
it,
to be in circulation, like
it
with
has to
anything
be in
else.
circulation. You see, the reason why I brought the bank up is because the bank is a financial entity, right?
Hmm.
But when we talk about the law of giving and receiving, I'm talking about from the grand scale of the spirit entity,
Hmm.
right? Of the God entity. Because if we don't give and we keep things to ourselves, even that where we hoard, that will also disappear over time. Because nature and the universe loves abundance. You see, another thing is take a deep breath and release. There's nothing to be afraid of that now the air in the world is less. Because from abundance we took abundance, and yet abundance remained. The whole world is always in circulation. The whole world is always recycling itself from material, people, things, whatever that may be. Why worry if you know that this law has been set by the divine to operate harmoniously with you, the giver?
So is it fair to say that if worry, fear, and doubt exist in someone's life, there is there is lack of connection, or the connection is not strong with what we call God? To have the fear, worry, and doubt, because to me, that's how I see it. Like I see either we live in faith or we live in fear, but we can only choose one,
One thing at a time.
and one
They
thing at a
two
time.
yeah, two opposite emotions and thoughts cannot be occupy the heart at the same time.
True. So, and that goes with anything. Either you're in a space of love or a space of hate. Either you're in a in a in a room of darkness or in a room of with light, right? So
Absolutely.
since we can only choose one, when we are feeling disharmony within our mind, within our heart, that we don't have peace.
Here's my take on that. You see, fear is not the opposite of faith. I like to think of it as the absence of faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we like to measure faith, right? If you look at, for example, the thermostat, it's usually showing you in heat units. And whatever, even if it goes below zero, but it's still measuring you in heat units. It's not measuring you in cold units. We don't have such a thing. So what does that mean? That means if something is cold, that means that, there is an absence of something else. Same thing with, if, you can make the light brighter, but if you're in a dark room, you can't make it darker. Switch
Mm-hmm.
on the light and the darkness disappears. So it's an absence of light.
I love
And here's the thing. So you want to focus on the truth. God is all knowing, God is all abundant. God can provide, sustain, nurture, create, do anything. But we need to be in alignment and harmony with these laws. There are many laws to the universe. And that's what our show is mainly all about, is how can I align myself
mm-hmm.
spiritually, mentally, and action wise, so that I will always be within the flow of abundance and harmony.
And I absolutely, and I just want to say for myself, prior to knowing a lot of the information that I've done the inner work to understand how important alignment is with your body, mind, and spirit, right? In the past, because I felt I needed to be in control, it was all about the mind and the body, and keep going, keep doing, do, give, do, but never stop to actually be. And being is that spiritual part that I myself lacked. The only time I thought about the spiritual part of me was when I stepped into church on Sunday. And I said this in my other show. Now I understand that when you say being in alignment, it's a balance, having all three working for me in order to live more harmoniously, and
Absolutely.
practicing all three.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you don't have to wait until every Sunday. You know, like a lot of, like, including myself, I'm guilty of it. That I always, for example, used to, if I, think of it momentarily and then carry on heedlessly for the rest of the day. But it doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Wallace Wattles said something very important, especially when he talked about, the law of increase. So everything keeps increasing, right? But we have to give it with such an energy. We have to always be on purpose, backing it up by truly heartfelt intention. Why is that? Because, you know, the whole universe is an ocean of motion, right? And if you're not backing it up by your emotion, which there's not going to be an energy to make the static dynamic and make it flow through the motion.
Mm-hmm.
So by your feelings, by the spirit of giving with an open heart, you open the doors more for you to receive in abundance. And everything that you put out intention wise comes back to you multiple fold. But be very cautious of the feeling before you give. If check yourself before you give, do the mental adjustments in order to alter the emotional adjustments in yourself, and then give. The energy that's behind that has blessings.
And I love that you said, what you're giving out will come back. And sometimes you don't make the connection, but when you open a door for someone and the next day you find $10 on the ground, well, that was because you opened the door for someone, right?
And yeah, and here's the thing, like the reason people have difficulty in giving is like it. Even I think it was one time. I think it was Mary Morrissey. She said that money was not flowing, and basically she didn't have much left, and all that she had in her pocket was just a few cents. Now, some people may be embarrassed to give this few cents out, because it's not something that would make anyone happy or such. Depends on the receiver too. But regardless of that, you know, she made an intention that she's gonna give with an open heart. She's gonna give it with the spirit of giving. And believe it or not, it wasn't just short amount of time before abundance opened his doors. God opened the doors of abundance on her, and she started receiving. Her business started to improve, and everything just changed in her life. And that's what Bob did one time with his company too. Money was not coming in very frequently and too often. So when he checked in with the accountant, they realized that they were not tithing. So he went ahead and he said, go ahead and make sure that you keep 10% on the side of everything that we earn. And the accountant goes, but our situation, and he goes, I don't want to hear it. Just do it. So as soon as they started doing that, everything started to go back to, operating on full throttle. Everything was harmonious in the company, and money started flowing in abundance. You see, when we don't give in the spirit of giving out of love, we're basically limiting what we receive. It's like if it's difficult for you emotionally to give, then it's going to be also difficult for you emotionally to receive. Again, it's the energy that you're putting out. What kind of emotion are you emitting out? Be conscious of that.
Yeah, that's so good. Actually, yesterday I saw a TikTok about this man who was living in a trailer with his 2-year-old daughter. And the guy goes up to him and says, would you mind helping me? I have this pineapple, and on the other side of the pineapple, there's a sticker that says $30,000, right? Just keep that in mind. So he says, would you mind helping me? I need to buy medicine for my mother. Now, this guy definitely looked like he was homeless himself, living in like a trailer that would belong to someone else. And so, to make a long story short, he did pull out what I think was $7 he had. And he said, listen, you know what? My baby and I are going to eat pineapple tonight. Go ahead and take this. I mean, it was like a 20-minute video, but to make the long, the story short. So he gave him the $7. And then he's like, why are you here? What happened to you? And the guy told him the story. And then he said, well, thank you so much for giving me this money. He says, I want you to turn the pineapple around. And he's like, what's this? He's like, he goes, does the pineapple cost $30,000? He's like, I don't have $30,000, right? So he says no, and then he gave him. There was 3 packets of 10,000, and
Yeah.
he's giving it to the guy, and he's like, what is this? And then the guy goes, I can't take that. He says, no, you got to go give it to someone else who really needs it. I'm okay. I could. So he didn't even want the $30,000. But, just to prove your point, how the intention behind, like this man with $7 in his pocket, only $7 with a 2-year-old baby living in a trailer, gave whatever he had out of his pocket for a guy who just said, I need to buy medicine for my mother. And here he was having, given 30,000, which he didn't even want that, which I know probably got more blessings than $30,000 at some point, but it was just amazing how, again, just to prove the point of what we're saying here, the intention behind giving doesn't matter how big, how small. If you're doing it with love and you're opening up your heart, you will receive the same back.
Again, as you said, with an open heart. And that's the thing. The more pure you maintain your heart, the greater the abundance that it flows to you. And as I said earlier, see everybody as a reflection of you. You don't really know how life circumstances and situations can change. And what if one day you're in their shoes, and because of a good deed that you have made, that someone can help you rise yourself up again and go back to where you were before.
And that's the beautiful thing about the law of giving and living in harmony, right? So thank you everyone for joining us today. This is one of my favorite shows. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining me.
We'll
And
see
we'll
you all
see
next week.
you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change.